Hello. Chapter 16, Global Sourcing and Procurement. Excuse me. I think everybody remembers the COVID-19 pandemic and the fact that we would try to go to stores and find that the shelves were empty. And anytime, I'm from Florida, so anytime there's a storm coming, um, you can't get any food in the stores because everybody runs to the stores, and they exhibit what's known as panic buying behavior. And the immediate impact of this is that the store shelves are empty. And restaurant suppliers, they saw the opposite. Grocery stores suppliers quickly ramped up, and then restaurant suppliers canceled all orders and then shut down. Over time, stores saw the demand from the panic buying quickly drop, and then the restaurants slowly began to reopen. These rapid shifts in demand often induce a phenomenon known as the bullwhip effect. Strategic sourcing is the development and management of supplier relationships to acquire goods and services in a way that aids in achieving the immediate needs of a business. Sourcing is a process suitable for procuring products that are strategically important to the firm. In the past, sourcing was another name for purchasing, so purchasing and sourcing are synonymous. As a result of globalization, sourcing implies a more complex process suitable for products that are strategically important to the organization. Specificity refers to how common the item is and, in a relative sense, how many substitutes might be available for it. And commonly available products can be purchased using a relatively simple process. So, the acronym RFP, which stands for Request for Proposal, is used in purchasing items that are more complex or expensive and where there may be a number of potential vendors. These RFPs are generally sent out or available on your website, and those companies that are interested in supplying those products for the company will fill out an RFP. And the RFP also is really good so that when there are multiple suppliers who are interested in sourcing, you can compare and contrast them, because the RFP is a consistent document and it is made by the company that is looking for sourcing, so they're going to ask the questions that they want so they can make the comparison much easier to take a look at. The next is a vendor managed inventory. This is when a customer actually allows the supplier to manage an item or group of items for them. A lot of times you'll see that Amazon actually is the shipper of choice, so many companies actually have Amazon hold their inventory for them, and Amazon will ship the products directly from their warehouses. In here, the sourcing, purchasing, design matrix, you have requests for bid and reverse auctions, and there's different things. A spot purchase, that's when someone needs something right then and there, don't have time to go through the process. Electronic catalog, a list of products that are available. And then you can see on this continuum, when you have a very specific request, it's usually higher in cost, and then transaction costs are usually higher when you have strategic alliances or when you're requesting information for a proposal. The bullwhip effect, forward buying, retailers responding to a temporary price cut by stocking up. The bullwhip effect, phenomenon of variability magnification as we move from the customer to the producer in the supply chain. A slight change in consumer sales ripples backward as magnified oscillations upstream, like the result of a flick of a bullwhip. Continuous replenishment, inventories are placed frequently as part of an ongoing process. You never get below a certain reorder point because it's constantly being replenished. Increasing variability of orders up to the supply chain. So here we have order quantity over time. It's relatively constant. Retailers order to the wholesaler. There are spikes and peaks and valleys. Same with the wholesaler, and also same with the manufacturer's order to the supplier. Supply chain uncertainty framework. So functional products, you've got staples that people buy in a wide range of retail outlets, such as grocery stores and gas stations. These are products that are replaced very quickly. The inventory of these items is not very big, so if a week goes by without deliveries, we will run out of food in grocery stores and gas stations. Innovative products such as fashionable clothes and cell phones that may have a life cycle of just a few months. And then also stable supply process, the process where the underlying technology is stable. Evolving supply process, that's a process where the underlying technology changes rapidly. Moving on. Supply chain uncertainty framework continued. Product life cycle of more than 2 years. Contribution margin of 5 to 20%. Only 10 to 20 product variations. And the average forecast error of only 10%. The lead time for make-to-order products is from 6 months to a year. So I talked about this earlier, where when you're manufacturing products, you have to think about that way in advance and then make a commitment. And I said also, when we were talking about the supply chain game, we were talking about, is it better to have a stock out, or is it better to have an oversupply? And the answer is neither. You've got to get it just right. I call it the Goldilocks principle in inventory. You've got to get it just right. Either case is just too expensive. Excuse me. I don't think I've ever sneezed recording a lecture, but there's always a first. Then you have innovative products. And innovation can enable a company to achieve higher profit margins. Why is that? Josh? Say it again. That's right, Josh. Innovation means that a company has things that nobody else has. And if you have things that nobody else has, you can charge a lot more money and have much higher profit margins. Newness of the innovative products makes demand for them unpredictable. Typically, they have a life cycle of just a few months. And imitators quickly erode the competitive advantage that innovative products enjoy. Companies are forced to introduce a steady stream of newer innovations, and that gets tough to continually come up with a winner. The short life cycles and the great variety typical of these products further increases the unpredictability. Manufacturing process, if it's stable, it's an efficient supply chain. You have grocery, basic apparel, food, oil, and gas. For evolving, it's risk hedging supply chain, hydroelectric power, food, which is a risk because it depends on the weather and all the other conditions that farmers go through when they grow their product. Innovative, responsive supply chain would be like fashion apparel, low-end computers, seasonal products. And then on agile supply chain, cell phones, high-end computers, and semiconductors. Continuing with the product and manufacturing process uncertainty characteristics, you have functional and innovative. Demand on functional is predictable. In innovative, it's unpredictable. Product life cycle, on functional it's long, innovative short. You get the idea here for product, for demand. And then manufacturing supply. If you have a stable product, the breakdowns are few. Evolving is higher. Process yield is stable, is high, and for evolving is lower. And then you can get the rest of the idea from the rest of the chart. But there are 4 types of supply chain strategies. Remember these because I'm probably going to test you on it. Efficient supply chains, risk hedging supply chains, responsive supply chains, and agile supply chains. Outsourcing, the definition of outsourcing is moving some of the firm's internal activities and decision responsibility to outside providers. We talked about third-party logistics providers. This is what a company would do when they outsource their transportation, warehousing, and distribution. It also allows a company to create a competitive advantage while reducing costs. An entire function may be outsourced, or maybe just some elements of an activity, with the rest kept in-house. And there's very specific reasons to start to go to do outsourcing, because sometimes the company is just not good at something else, and then you can actually buy the services of an outsourcing company to handle this, and they can do it much more efficiently so that the company can focus on what their competitive advantage is. Here's some of the reasons. They're financially driven, it improves production and quality. Organizationally, it's a reason, and you can read all of these at your leisure. Logistics outsourcing, we talked about this last chapter. It's basically, third-party logistics, it's called. But the definition is the management functions that support the complete cycle of material flow. It's purchase and internal control of materials, planning and control of work in process, purchasing, shipping, and distribution of the finished product. And the emphasis on lean inventory means there is less room for delivery errors. It's easy when you have a third-party logistics company providing delivery, and if they make a mistake on it, you have the opportunity to make them pay for it. But if you're shipping it internally with your own company and you make a mistake on shipping, you have to eat the costs. Logistics companies have complex computer tracking technology that reduces the risk in transportation and allows the logistics company to add more value to the firm. Since they're the experts in this, the SME or subject matter expert, sometimes it's good to contract with them and have them handle that part of your business. And these third-party logistics providers track the freight to tell customers exactly where its drivers are and when the deliveries will be made. A framework for structuring supplier relationships. Coordination characteristics. You do not outsource if the coordination interfaces are not well defined. The information and coordination is specific to each job, meaning that it changes. And the technology is immature, and there's a need for expert knowledge obtained by experience. In these cases, you don't outsource. But you do outsource if it's standardized and the required information is highly codified in terms of price, quantity, delivery schedules, etc. And then investment is strategic assets characteristic. Significant investments in highly specialized assets are needed. The investments cannot be easily recovered if the relationship terminates. And long-term investments in specialized research and development and lengthy learning curves do not outsource. If assets are commonly available from a large number of potential customers or suppliers, a good reason to outsource. Intellectual property characteristics. Weak intellectual property protection, easy to imitate technology when access is given, do not outsource. If you have strong intellectual property protection and difficult to imitate technology, then it's a go. Green sourcing. Being environmentally responsible has become a business imperative. Many firms are looking to their supply chains to deliver green results. Financial results can often be improved through going green. I don't know if that's necessarily true all the time, but I think it represents a good marketing gimmick or a good PR gimmick when you can say that you're a green company, because there are a lot of individuals who only want to deal with green companies and don't want to feel like they're contributing to Earth's demise, and want to make sure that things are strategically sourced, that they are responsible to the environment, and that they are renewable resources. A comprehensive green sourcing effort should assess how a company uses items that are purchased internally. And, of course, it is also important to reduce waste and make sure you're not responsible for polluting the earth. So green sourcing process, you can take a look at this. Assess the opportunity, engage, assess the supply base, institutionalize the sourcing strategy, implement it, and then, I'm sorry, I went the wrong way. Assess the opportunity, engage sourcing agents, assess the supply base, develop the sourcing strategy, implement, and then institutionalize it so that it becomes part of the everyday processes. Total cost of ownership. This is something that I think a lot of people don't understand, particularly when they're building buildings and they're putting in equipment. I'll give you a perfect example. I was the business director of a research institute, and one of the buildings that they built is a beautiful building. They put in specialized lighting, but didn't realize that the lighting was replacements were rare, and also the lighting was about 27 feet up in the air. So the only way to replace the light bulbs was to hire a company that had a lift, and then we had to buy the specialized light bulbs. No one thought about that when the building was put together. So the total cost of ownership is really something that's important, particularly like when you buy a car. You buy a car, you have your initial purchase expenses, but what about the maintenance? There are many cars out there that require a lot more maintenance than other cars, and that contributes to the total cost of ownership. So the TCO is an estimate of the cost of an item. It includes all the costs related to the procurement and the use of an item, included any relating costs in disposing the item. When people buy electric cars, you have to realize that battery contains a lot of toxic material, and batteries are limited in terms of how long they're going to be able to be recharged and last. And then what happens to that material? The car has to go to the landfill. At least with internal combustion engine vehicles, they can just be turned into the junkyard and recycled and then used as scrap. The last item on the TCO is can be applied to internal cost or more broadly to costs throughout the supply chain. How do you measure sourcing performance? Well, measuring sourcing performance is really important. I used something called a vendor scorecard, where I developed a group of metrics and I rated my different vendors to see who was the better vendor. And I have something what I refer to as the many principle. And the many principle is I like to use two main vendors, and I usually do a 60-40 split. So one vendor has a majority of the business that I provide to them, and then the next one has a minority or 40%. And what happens then if the majority vendor is falling down on the job, it's not going to take much for the minority vendor to go get bumped up from 40 to 60%, and then I have to find another vendor to make up for the 40. But when you're sourcing performances, you have to take a look at your inventory turnover, how often your inventory is replaced in the year, what the COGS is, or cost of goods sold. It's the annual cost for a company to produce the goods or services provided to customers. Then you have the average aggregate inventory value, the total value of all items held in inventory. How do you figure out inventory turnover? It's the cost of goods sold divided by the average aggregate inventory value. Then you have weeks of supply. How many weeks worth of inventory is in the system at a particular point in time? Weeks of supply equals the average aggregate inventory value divided by the cost of goods times 1 year, or 52 weeks. So for instance, you have 169,559 divided by 4,061. So you have an inventory turn of 41.75 turns per year, which is excellent. And then you have weeks of supply, 4,061 divided by the inverse times 52 equal 1.25 weeks. So we can see that you're turning your inventory every week. In summary, sourcing is a term that captures the strategic nature of purchasing in today's global and internet-connected marketplace. The bullwhip effect is when changes in demand are magnified as they move from the customer to the manufacturer. Supply chains can be categorized based on demand and supply uncertainty characteristics. 4 types of supply chains are identified, efficient, risk hedging, responsive, and agile. And costs can generally be categorized into 3 areas: acquisition, ownership, and post-ownership. Inventory turn and weeks of supply are the most common measures to evaluate a supply chain efficiency. And we are done. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.